On the morning of my brother's wedding, I was on my knees scrubbing red wine out of the hallway rug he had spilled on purpose. Welcome to Revenge Story Official, where the quiet ones always have a plan. And justice never arrives late, if you believe silence is the most powerful weapon. You are in the right place. Let's get into it. I am Lily, 31 years old. For as long as I can remember, I was the help in my own family's house. My parents treated my brother like royalty. I cleaned his room. I made his meals. And I heard the same sentence my whole life. Some people are just meant to serve. That morning I wore a plain gray dress, picked so I would not outshine the bride. By sundown, the bride's own father would lift a camera, look at my face, and go white as the tablecloth. But what one photograph uncovered that day, none of them ever saw coming. By sunrise I had already been awake 2 hours. I balanced the farm's books because no one else in that house could hold a column straight. I reconciled invoices, paid the propane bill, and changed the dressing on my father Roy's diabetic foot because I am a licensed practical nurse and somebody had to be. My mother, Dana, came into the kitchen at 6 and looked at the eggs like they had insulted her. "These are cold." "They were warm when you slept through your alarm," I said, and kept whisking. Here is the part people never understand. I had a license. A paycheck from the county clinic 15 minutes down the road. A savings account they did not know existed. A woman with all that does not stay scrubbing somebody else's wine off a rug because she is weak. She stays because something is holding her there. That afternoon, Dana handed me a 3-page list. Steam the linens. Polish the silver. Press Grant's suit. It read like a contract for a stranger she had hired. "Am I sitting at a table tomorrow?" I asked, "or am I working it?" She did not look up from her coffee. "Honey, some people are just meant to serve. You've always been so good at it. Don't make it sad." There it was. The sentence I had been hearing since I was small enough to need a stool to reach the sink. I had already gotten out on paper. 3 weeks earlier I had signed a lease on a 1-bedroom above the hardware store in town. $800 a month. Mine. $11,000 saved at the credit union, built one careful shift at a time over 9 years. An application sitting in my email for a full-time floor nurse position at Mercy Regional, better pay, a pension. The only reason I was still under that roof was a reason I had not told anyone yet. Her name was Nana Ruth. My father's mother had lived with us my whole childhood, and she was the only person in that house who ever called me something tender. "My girl," she would say. When Dana made me eat in the kitchen, Ruth carried her own plate in and ate beside me, slow, so I would not eat alone. 7 months before the wedding, she was dying in a hospice bed in the front room. I worked every double I could swing so I could nurse her myself at night. I had promised her I would see her out. Near the end, lucid for one moment in the dark, she gripped my wrist. "Lily. There's something I should have told you years ago. Something about how you came to us." I leaned close. "Tell me, Nana." Her eyes drifted. The morphine pulled her back under. 3 days later she was gone, the sentence unfinished between us. The rehearsal dinner was at Hartley Hall. I was not a guest at it. I was the one refilling water pitchers while my family toasted my brother. Grant stood to make a toast, already a little drunk. "Some people are just meant to serve, right, Lily? And nobody serves like my sister." The table laughed warm and easy. But down at the head of the table, an older man I had not met yet had stopped laughing. "Silver hair, good coat, watching me the way you watch a word you cannot place." He found me by the kitchen door near the end of the night. "Excuse me. I'm Raymond, Brooke's father." A pause. Forgive an old man's rudeness. "But might I ask your name, your full name, and where you were born?" "Lily Whitfield. Born right here in Cedar Hollow." Something moved across his face like a cloud crossing a field. He opened his mouth, and Dana was there between us, hand on his arm, smile screwed on tight. "Mr. Hartley, you don't want to keep the help from her work. Lily, the cars need loading. Double quotes. She steered me away with a grip that left marks. I looked back once. Raymond Hartley was still standing exactly where I'd left him, staring after me like a man who had just seen someone walk out of a grave. That night I could not sleep. I took the fireproof box from the hall closet, the one Dana thought I did not have a key to, and laid my birth certificate on the kitchen table next to Nana Ruth's yellowed hospital bracelet, the one I had found that evening in her tin box. The date matched October 4th on both. But the medical record number on the bracelet was not the number on the certificate. Not a typo. Completely different. The birth weight on the bracelet read 6 pounds 1 ounce. The certificate said 5'9". A baby is one weight when she is born. 1 on the inside of the bracelet, almost rubbed away, was the start of a printed last name. Not Whitfield. The morning of the wedding, I put the bracelet flat on the kitchen table in front of Dana. Why doesn't this match my birth certificate? I watched the color leave her face in real time. Then she snatched it up and closed her fist around it. Behind her, my father stood frozen in the doorway, his mouth opening like he had something to say. Then he picked up his coffee and walked out to the truck without a sound. But Dana did not understand something. You do not snatch up junk and lock it in your pocket. You do not go white over garbage. Her panic told me everything her mouth would not. I had already photographed it. That morning I made 2 phone calls from the porch. The first to Cedar Hollow County Hospital, requesting a certified copy of my full birth record. The second to a private lab that did DNA comparison work, to 3 weeks for a legally binding result, once they had 2 samples and sign consent. I knew exactly how this worked. What a cheek swab proves. How chain of custody keeps a result from being thrown out later. Before I left for the hall, I went back to the tin box one more time. At the bottom, under the liner, I found a folded sheet in Nana Ruth's careful cursive. My girl. Ask them about the night you came home. You were loved before you ever got here. And don't you let them tell you different. The truth belongs to you. I'm sorry. I was too much a coward to give it sooner. Forgive me. Folded inside was a brittle square of newsprint. An obituary. Helen Hartley, beloved wife and mother, died in childbirth at Cedar Hollow County Hospital, survived by her husband Raymond and their daughter. 31 years ago. The same month I was born. The same hospital. Hartley. I sat in my truck before the wedding and searched the name. The obituary came up archived word for word. I pulled up everything I could find on the Hartley family. Raymond. And a daughter, Brooke. The bride my brother was marrying in 2 hours. If a girl had been born to Helen Hartley the night Helen died, and if that girl had somehow ended up across the county in the Whitfield house, then the bride and I might be looking at the same face every time we looked at each other. Dana caught me in the side pantry, tying my apron over the gray dress. I know you called the hospital. You make one scene at this wedding, you breathe one word of your sick little story, and you are out tonight. No room, no recommendation, not $1. You'll have nothing because you are nothing without this family. I already signed a lease, Dana. 3 weeks ago. I start at Mercy Regional in a fortnight. She stared at me. For the first time in my life, I watched my mother realize she had no hold on me left to pull. The ceremony was lovely. I watched from the back with a tray of champagne. During the reception, Grant, 2 glasses in, loose and mean with it, stuck his foot out just enough to catch my ankle. The tray tipped. Red wine went down a chair and onto the hardwood. Whoops. Better clean that up before somebody slips. I went down on one knee with a bar towel. The same way I had started this whole day. But it felt different now. It felt like the last time. I made myself a promise. This was the final thing I would ever clean for this family. When I stood, Raymond Hartley was already half out of his chair, watching me. When I came near his table to clear a plate, he spoke, barely above a whisper, to a ghost. Helen. Helen Hartley, I said quietly. He flinched like I had touched a wound. How do you know that name? Dana materialized, hand on his shoulder, steering. This time, Raymond did not move. At the group photo, Dana arranged everyone the way she arranged everything, me at the very end of the back row, half cut off by the frame. Raymond lifted his own camera, pressed the shutter once, and froze. He stared at the screen. Then he reached into his coat and drew out a photograph so worn it was nearly white at the folds. He held it up next to me, his eyes moving between the screen, the photo, my face. "Oh my God," he said. "Oh my God, it's you." He stepped down off the riser and held the photograph out. A young woman in a yellow dress, laughing on a porch. My exact face. This is my wife. This is Helen. The spring before we lost her. And the baby, they told us she didn't make it. They told us she was gone that same night. He called a doctor right there on the dance floor. An old friend who had worked at Cedar Hollow County that night. I did not wait to be rescued. I walked up and laid everything on the nearest table, clean and plain. The bracelet. The obituary. Nana Ruth's note. My name is Lily. I was born at Cedar Hollow County the same night your wife died there. My birth records don't match my own bracelet. I'm a nurse. I've already requested the hospital records and ordered a DNA test. It takes a few weeks to come back, witnessed and legal, so no one can ever call it staged. Raymond looked at the pile of paper, his whole life turning over on a wedding table. Double quotes. Yes. God, yes, whatever you need. But I don't need a test to know that face. Brooke had come up behind him. She looked at the bracelet, at the photo, at me. I knew. I knew your face. I've been looking at it my whole life. That was when Dana lost the room. Stop this. She's lying. She's been a liar her whole life, jealous of her brother. I put my hand over the bracelet first. The guests went quiet. My father stood at the edge of it all, ashen, looking at the bracelet like it was a live coal. His mouth moved. I thought, for 1 second, he would finally say it. Dana said his name, Sharp. He closed his mouth and looked at the floor. You are the help, Dana said, shaking, throwing the old sentence at me one last time like it had always been a weapon. Do you hear me? You always have been. Some people are just meant to serve, and that is all you will ever be. I felt myself go very calm. The way I go calm when a patient is crashing and everyone else starts to panic. Raymond's single quotes phone rang. The doctor calling back. Raymond listened, one hand over his mouth, nodding, eyes closing. He remembers that night, he said to no one and everyone. There was a stillbirth and a mix-up in the nursery. He'll swear to it. He thinks my daughter never died at all. He thinks she went home with the wrong family. I picked up a spoon and tapped it against a water glass. The hall went silent. 100 faces turned to the woman in the apron. My name is Lily, I said. Most of you know me as the help. For 23 years, I cleaned this family's house, cooked their meals, and balanced their books for free. I was told I was born to serve. I let that sit. This week, my grandmother's things came down from the attic. In them, I found a baby's hospital bracelet that does not match my birth certificate. 2 different record numbers, 2 different weights, for one baby girl born one night in Cedar Hollow. I held up Nana Ruth's note. She left me this. It says, ask them about the night you came home. So I did. I turned toward Raymond and Brooke. Tonight, Helen Hartley's husband told me his baby daughter was declared dead at that same hospital, the same night I was born there. She wasn't dead. She was handed to the wrong family by mistake, and that family chose never to fix it. I let them all look. From the photograph in Raymond's hand to the woman in the apron. I am not the help. I am Helen Hartley's daughter, and I have been her daughter the whole time. The hall was so quiet I could hear the string lights humming. Then it broke open. Raymond came toward me, both hands out, tears running down his face. Helen, you're Helen's girl. You're mine. Brooke gripped my arm, crying and laughing at once. Sister. Because that was the other half of it. If I was Helen and Raymond's lost daughter, then Brooke, the bride my brother had just married, was my blood sister. Grant stood frozen at the center of his own wedding, looking from me to Brooke to his mother, no charm left to reach for. For the first time in his entire life, he was not the most important person in the room. It was Roy who broke first. My father put his face in his hands. It's true. God forgive me. It's true, we knew. We always knew. That was what took the floor out from under Dana. The one man who had helped her hold the lie for 3 decades had just let go of his end of it in front of everyone. She rounded on him, then on me, and came apart in front of everyone she had spent her life performing for. You don't know what it was like. I lost my baby that night. She came too early and she died in my arms in that hallway, and they put another baby in the bassinet, and I was supposed to just hand her back. I'd already lost one. I gave you a roof. I fed you. You owed me those years. She had come into that hall meaning to deny everything. Cornered instead, she had just confessed all of it to 100 witnesses. I did not scream back. I did not have to. I walked over to her, close, so I would not have to raise my voice. You were right, Dana. All those years. You were right about one thing. Some people are just meant to serve. I let that land. I served the truth, not you. Never you again. I took the ring of keys from my apron pocket, the house, the barn, the feed shed, and set them down on the table beside the broken plates. Quiet, final. I came home 31 years ago to the wrong house. I'm not staying in it one more night. I turned away. Behind me, I heard her start to say my name. Small now. Almost pleading. I did not turn around. That was the last thing she ever got to make me do, which was nothing at all. The weeks after were paperwork, the good kind, the kind that builds a life instead of propping up a lie. The county reopened the hospital records. The DNA test came back 3 weeks later and confirmed in cold percentages what the whole reception had already seen with their own eyes. Raymond Hartley is my father. My birth certificate is being legally corrected. Dana is facing the consequences of what she confessed in front of 100 witnesses because keeping a child you know is not yours and falsifying her records is not something the law simply forgives. I started full-time at Mercy Regional that month. The apartment above the hardware store gets beautiful evening light. On Sundays I drive out to the Hartley farm where Raymond keeps Helen's photograph on the mantle. And Brooke and I sit on the porch and trade the childhoods we should have shared. Roy called about a month in. I gave him 1 hour, on neutral ground, my choosing. He cried into his coffee and told me he had known for years. I let him say all of it. Then I told him the truth, that sorry, 31 years late, does not undo a single morning I spent on my knees. But I was not going to carry his guilt for him either. I spent 23 years being told my worth was the work of my hands. It turned out the people who said it loudest were the ones most afraid of what my own face could prove. If anyone has ever told you that you were just the help, remember whose fear that really is. And remember that the truth keeps your name safe, even when the people raising you won't. If you are watching this right now, tell me in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from? I read every single one. That is my story, and I will see you on Revenge Story Official, where silence is power and the truth always finds its moment.